just kind of say like, nope, not leaving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what parents should do. I
Yeah.
mean, this is your child. They're not an adult yet. They still need guidance. That's what you're there for.
Let's talk really quickly about medical consent for preteens and teens. I know this is a really big issue today. We had this happen several years ago. My oldest I think she was about 14, and I don't even remember why we went to the doctor. It wasn't for a regular checkup, but for some reason we had gone to the doctor. And the doctor started asking my daughter all of these very personal questions. I mean, she was asking her if she was physically active with boys. I mean, she was literally I think she was 14. And she's asking her these questions in front of me. But before she started asking these questions, she said, "Do you want your mom to step out of the room while I ask you some questions?" And Brooklyn just looked at me. She was like, "No, my mom can stay. I want my mom to be in here." And then she proceeded to ask her these very, very personal questions. And it was so uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, I think we're good here. But I was so in shock because I did not expect that. One, didn't expect her to ask me to leave. And two, I did not expect that she was going to ask my 14-year-old these very personal questions. Talk through this whole mess of medical consent and them asking our preteens and teens for parents to leave. What do we do with that? I mean, it's just such a hard situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, what you just described is what I often tell people, who the children are kind of just getting to that preteen, 11, 12, 13, time frame. Tell them to expect exactly what you encountered. And that is, they'll try to ask you, all right, Mom, would you step out of the room while I talk to your child, or Dad, step out of the room. And, and typically what they're wanting to ask about is questions related to sexual activity and related to mental health and things like drug use. Those are kind of the most substance abuse. Those are the things that they're normally asking about, and it's not because they necessarily have any suspicion of those things.
Right.
It's just they just ask all children those questions because it's pervasive enough that children do have issues with those around that age, that they go ahead and start talking to them about it. And, obviously you're just like, wait a second, I brought my child in for a sports physical or something.
Right.
Why do we need to get into all this? I can talk with my child about those things. Thank you very much. So generally it's something that, there are actually laws. One reason why they start asking about these sorts of things is that there are laws in every state that actually allow children at a certain age to get medical treatment, even without parental consent or parental notice, on some of those issues, kind of depending on the state, and perhaps even other issues. Again, that's on our law policy for free on our website. People can visit and see kind of what's the law in your state, on when children can actually get treatment without parental consent on those things. But those, it's a very common thing that they ask. And what we recommend is, when your child is, getting near that age and you need to go to the doctor for whatever reason, go ahead and talk to them before you go and just say, hey, listen, they're probably going to ask for me to step out of the room. I'm your parent. I'm paying for this. I need to be in the room. I know your whole history better than you do. And so I need to be in the room. And, are you good with that? And hopefully your child says yes. If your child says no, then that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
But if your child says, yeah, of course, then generally what we say is, it's best if the child, speaks up and says, like, no, I want my mom in the room, or no, I want my dad in the room. It just comes across a little bit better coming from the child.
Sure.
Than from the adult.
Can an adult step in and say, no, I don't want to leave, I want to stay in the room?
Absolutely. I mean, it's your child. So you can absolutely say that. Yeah, absolutely. You can certainly, just kind of say like, nope, not leaving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what parents should do. I mean, this is your child. They're not an adult yet. They still need guidance. That's what you're there for. And, so I think you should still be in the room.
Yeah. What a weird thing to be asked as a parent, but again, I mean, you look at our society, public schools are trying to take control of parenting our children for us. And so why would doctors not try to take control of that same thing?
Right.
It doesn't even make sense. I mean, God put us in charge of our kids. And like you said, we
Right.
know them better than they know themselves in most cases. And so we need to be the ones there to advocate for them, to answer questions for them, to protect them. And man, it's such a strange, such a strange time that we're living in. So do you have anything else on that? I mean, I think that's amazing. Yes, we need to just be aware that that's happening and be willing to step in.
Sometimes they even make it where you can't even access your child's medical records, after a certain age, and that's something that your child can actually sign something that gives you access to that. And so we encourage families to do that. We even have a form in our members only section of our website for folks to download that form and get that in the file to make sure that they still have access, even once the child crosses a certain threshold. And again, it kind of depends on the state on that.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.